All right, so we're going to continue chapter 41, Perek Mem Aleph in Tehilim, in Psalms. Lamnatseach Mizmor David. So this one he begins with Mizmor. Mizmor meaning that he began to sing, and therefore to compose something, and as a result of his singing, he was uplifted, and the divine Ruach HaKodesh came upon him. As opposed to when it says LeDavid Mizmor, that the Ruach HaKodesh came on first, and then he began to sing. Here he begins with a very interesting concept that many people are unaware of, how important it is, and that is how you treat the poor. Treating the poor is a very sensitive area, a very sensitive topic that is discussed at length in halakha as well as emphasized in the Torah. How one has to be very, very considerate of people who are destitute, people who are in great need, because Hashem is judging us at the moment when we are confronted with a situation where we can be of help to another individual, we have the means, and we look away, chas v'shalom, we do not do what we can do for him, then it's almost an automatic judgment on the spot. The poor are supported by God directly, the poor and the widow, as the Torah says. And if we look away, and we're not sensitive enough, we don't consider them, and we have the means, we're able to, it doesn't look right. On the contrary, if we do go out of our way to help those who are poor, those who are in pain, suffering, it looks very, very good for us. So much so that whenever our time in need comes, God forbid, unfortunately, it's like a wheel. Sometimes people are up and sometimes people are down. So if, for whatever reason, we are not doing that well, whether it's an illness or it's in an economic situation, that merit of how we behaved and the deed that we performed will speak up for us and can save our life. And that's what David HaMelech discusses here at the beginning of this perek. Ashrei maskil el dal v'yom ra'a yimalletehu Adonai. Fortunate is he who is thoughtful, considerate. But maskil is more than that. It doesn't only mean thoughtful, it means one who uses his sechel, one who is intelligent enough to realize that he should help out this poor man. For the Lord, or Hashem, will save him in the day of evil. In the day when things are bad for him, he will be saved. He will be spared. In other words, if he ever needs the merit, if he's ever in a situation where he needs help, that merit that he helped the Dal in his time of need will speak up for him. He could save his life. Yemaleteu Hashem. Hashem will save him, it says. And it's b'yom ra'ah. Yom ra'ah is not just any day. It's in an evil day, in a day of all kinds of terrible disasters, perhaps. This could be a merit that will spare him. How does this come into practice? Well, in practice, this could be as follows. Someone who is not yet a poor man, but he may lose his home. He may lose his job. He's in danger of bankruptcy or whatever. And before that happens, we help him to avoid it. It says here dal, remember, it doesn't say ani. Dal, ani, evyon, rash, these are all synonyms for a poor man, but in different levels or different stages, different circumstances of poverty. Dal is a person she'itmotet, or idaldel minechasav. He's losing his fortune. He's not yet ani ve'evyon, a beggar in the street. So he did have something once upon a time. He may still have something left over. But if we don't help him in his time of need, things can get worse. He may end up going to jail. He may end up in trouble. So he is in great need. And if we can avoid that fall, if we can avoid him getting any worse, getting into a worse situation, then it's a big mitzvah. It's a tremendous good deed. After an individual is already in a metzukah, after one is already in a difficult situation where he's having to borrow money, it's also a mitzvah to help. But much more so if we don't let him fall down all the way. You know, it used to be in the early 90s, people, all they needed was one mortgage payment and they could save their home. You remember that? They were, you know, they were having a hard time economically. You know, perhaps interest rates were high. Whatever it was a struggle. And all they needed was just one payment and they can avoid the foreclosure. Whoever was able to help out such people did a beautiful mitzvah. Because there were many who lost their homes because they couldn't pay the mortgage payment. So the idea is to help the poor, the dal, to avoid him becoming even poorer than what he is right now. So Ashrei Maskil, therefore, is not just thoughtful. It means that whoever uses his head properly in helping the poor man, he will gain a lot. The simple gain is what David HaMelech tells us over here. It will be a merit in your favor when you may need something, you know, of that nature in the future, God forbid. I mean, it could happen. So one way that this will help us is that this will be a great merit for us. Maskil, to be intelligent about it, means also not to embarrass the poor man. There's a lot of people who will help, but they will embarrass the poor man. They will say something not too nice, something nasty, something negative. Maskil means when you're helping someone, you want to give him, make sure you don't embarrass him. Otherwise, you would be better off not giving him and not embarrassing him. So maskil el dal, you have to know how to give. Give and encourage him, make him feel good. That takes intelligence. That takes sechel. Another interpretation of maskil el dal is that one should always consider himself, that perhaps he does not have ma'asim, he does not have enough good deeds to his credit, on his record. And when he leaves this world, what will he have to show? All the fortune that he has accumulated, he leaves behind. So if anything, a person should use his head to invest in the afterlife so that he can accumulate ma'asim, good deeds like charity. So who is the dal over here? He himself. Ashrei maskil el dal. When a person looks at himself and says, well, I haven't done enough. I haven't given enough. I haven't helped others. What can I show? What will I have to show when I go upstairs? The fortune that one has amassed will be left behind for the children, or the attorneys, or the IRS. You don't take that with you. What does one take? His ma'asim, all the good deeds. So fortunate is a person who takes the time to analyze his own ma'asim and see what there is that he can still do while he's alive. It reminds me of a story with the Chafetz Chaim. There was once an individual who wrote out a will. And he came to the Chafetz Chaim, Rabbi, I'd like you to review this will. You know, do you have any comments to say about it? In the will, he says that I donate all my books, he had a large library, to the yeshiva, and all my money I leave to my kids. Does that sound right, Rabbi? He says, no, it should be the other way around. All the books for your children, and all the money for the yeshiva. Your kids could use the books. The money should go for the yeshivot. That's where you're going to be rewarded much more for all your support that you give to them. That's the way to write the will. Another idea of maskil el dal, there's a beautiful mashal, a beautiful parable that says as follows. There was a whole bunch of people who were smuggling merchandise across the border. And there was a poor man there at the border who knew about this smuggling trick. And he was a poor man who would ask, for donations. And he went over to one very wealthy businessman and asked for a donation. This wealthy businessman was smuggling too. And the wealthy businessman realized what this guy is up to. In other words, if he doesn't give him, he's going to snitch on him. And he gave him a very nice amount of tzedakah. And the poor man said, thank you, and he left him alone. Another group of people who he approached were very upset at him. They said, leave us alone, we already gave you before. And he says, no, you give me again, you didn't give me enough. And they were ready to beat him up. In other words, they were very upset at him. And he left them and he went to snitch on them. And as a result of the snitching, the authorities caught up with them, checked their bags, and sure enough, they were sent to prison. Now, the poor man came to visit them. And now they wanted to give him tzedakah. But now in prison, he said, I can't help you. Now you're in trouble with the authorities. I can't get you out. This is not the time to give tzedakah anymore. The time to give tzedakah was before. So Hashem maskil el dal. Who's the maskil? The other guy who was intelligent enough to realize this ahead of time, what this poor man was up to. Otherwise, later on, it's too late. And this same thing happens when someone who is sick. Had a person done tzedakah properly before, he would avoid the doctor perhaps. He would avoid the hospital bills. After one is sick, then you want to say Tehilim, then you want to call all the poor people to help you out with the Tehilim, with saying psalms for you and prayers for you. It's already too late. I mean, it's never really too late. But it's not the same as when you have preventative medication, when you say the Tehilim on a regular basis, when you give tzedakah on a regular basis. So you avoid, as we know the verse says, tzedakah tatzil mimavet. It's a protector. Charity is a protector. So you don't want to wait until it's too late. So maskil el dal, use your head on time and do things early so you shouldn't have to deal with the troubles later on. The Zohar says on this pasuk that there was once a rabbi, Rabbi Yitzhak, that met up with a poor man in the street. And the poor man in the street says, can you spare a hatzi ma'ah? Hatzi ma'ah is something like 50 cents. In order so that I can complete dinner at home. He says, how could you complete dinner with a hatzi ma'ah? I'll give you a hatzi ma'ah, that's all I have. He says, I have a hatzi ma'ah, and you will give me a hatzi ma'ah, and in this way I will have. The poor man asked the rabbi, could you spare some money? The rabbi said, that's all I have is a hatzi ma'ah. So what could you do with a hatzi ma'ah? So he said, if you give me your hatzi ma'ah and I have my hatzi ma'ah, 50 cents and 50 cents, I'll have $1. And with that $1, I'll be able to buy some food. So he gave him the 50 cents. That night, the rabbi had a dream. He saw himself by the ocean, that he was about to drown. And Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai stretched out his hands to grab him, but he couldn't grab him to save him. Came along this poor man and took him out and handed him over to Rabbi Shimon. As soon as Rabbi Yitzhak woke up, the verse that came to his mouth was this one, Ashrei maskil el dal, v'yom ra'ah yimaleteu Hashem. What's fortunate is the man that used his head, in other words, that did the right thing at the right time, v'yom ra'ah yimaleteu Hashem. In other words, it could be that he would have gotten into some sort of trouble as a result of that. So he saw this in the dream, that as a result of that small amount of money that he gave, which made a difference to this poor man, maybe even saved his life. Another interpretation of dal is dal, we're talking about a person who is sick, a person who is not doing very well, not necessarily financially, health-wise. The mitzvah of Bikur Cholim is also a big mitzvah, to visit him, to reassure him, to make him feel good. That too requires a certain amount of sechel, of intelligence, of what are you going to say to him? One has to be very sensitive to people who are sick in what he says to them. So that also requires haskala, or that also requires sechel, I should say, intelligence of what to communicate to the person who is sick to reassure him and make him feel good. I would also like to add that this is an important piece of advice for the days of Mashiach, for the Messianic era. Rabbis tell us, Mashiach, Yasok b'torah gemilut chasadim. One who wants to save himself from all the troubles and tribulations that will come during the time of Mashiach, during this generation, should engage or involve himself in acts of chesed and the learning of Torah. They will protect him from the Chevei Mashiach. So today is a high time to engage in this. Not only does this hopefully repair the sinat chinam, the baseless hatred that brought about the Churban Bet HaMikdash, the destruction of the temple, it brings about ahavat chinam. It brings about love. Ahavat chinam is the opposite of sinat chinam. And this unifies people. It brings people together and it cements their relationship by being kind to others who you may not even know. So this is a very important area that needs to be strengthened. Gemilut Chasadim, which includes visiting the sick, helping in any way, not necessarily just giving money. So especially in Yemot HaMashiach, this could make a big difference. Next pasuk, Adonai yishmereu v'chayeu v'ushar ba'aretz v'al titenehu b'nefesh oivav. Hashem will guard him and keep him alive. V'ushar ba'aretz, and he will be praised throughout the land. Now this is something interesting. V'ushar ba'aretz, I didn't see too many commentaries speak about this. He will be praised. He will have a good name. This is important. We shouldn't minimize the fact that when people give, they have a good name. And that is why you don't want to always give anonymously. Otherwise, you will have the name or reputation of someone stingy. This guy never gives. And they don't know he's giving anonymously. Anonymous is good sometimes. But sometimes you want people to know for two reasons. You shouldn't get a bad name. And number two, let them learn from you. Oh, if he gives, then I should also give. So when they make appeals, sometimes it's necessary to call out what you have in mind to help. So others can see from that too. It's not always a good idea to remain anonymous. So he says, "Ve'ushar ba'aretz," he will have a good name. People will like him. And ve'al titenehu b'nefesh oivav, and you will not deliver him to the desires of the enemies. In other words, he will have extra protection as a result of being kind-hearted and charitable. Next pasuk, Adonai yis'adenu al eretz devai. Kol mishkavo afachta bechol yom. Very, very fascinating pasuk, this one. Here he says that Hashem is adenu, he will support him, God will support him on the bed of illness. Kol mishkavo afachta bechol yom, you will turn him over on his bed throughout his sickness. First of all, what's eretz devai? Eretz devai, a bed of illness? Is there such a thing as a bed of illness? Eretz devai today is used to connote a person who's about to die. Because the word devai is deep sorrow, deep sickness. It's not like 1 day or 2 days he's ill when people say, well, he'll come out of it. 1 day, 2. But what if a person is sick for a long time? That becomes devai. I would say in Arabic there's a word, I don't know in Farsi, but in Arabic there's a word balwa, which means sorrow. In other words, it's like sorrow. When a situation is very grave, I guess they would say in English. Grave, and you don't know what to think. That's eretz devai. So even if he's on eretz devai, that's what David is pointing out here. Even if he's on the bed of illness, meaning that he's already a while sick, Hashem mis'adenu, Hashem can still come out and help him because of the merit of his tzedakah. Kol mishkavo afachta bechol yom, Hashem turned him over in his sickness. What does this mean? So some interpret it that Hashem took care of him in his sickness. He turned him over, he took care of him. In the same way it says Hashem misadenu, Hashem turned him over. But according to the Kabbalah, the interpretation of these last few words, Kol mishkavo afachta bechol yom, means that his entire illness, whether it was a week or 2 or a month, in that amount of time that he was sick, or on his mishkab, on his bed, afachta bechol yom, which means you have taken care of all his sins that he has done during his life. Hafachta becholyo. In other words, you atoned for them. You took care of them through this illness. Because as we know, the Kabbalah explains that every illness also corresponds to a certain sin. We don't always know which one. But Yisurim, as it is, pain and suffering is always an atonement. So this could be one interpretation, that Kol Mishkavo Hafachta Becholyo. In other words, his entire bedridden time that he spent in bed was Hafachta Becholyo, you somehow took care of it through his illness. In other words, his sins were removed as a result of the illness. So even though it's not a good thing to be sick, we don't want to be sick. We pray that we should not be sick, and if we're sick, we pray that we recover. Nonetheless, as long as a person is experiencing a terrible sickness, you should know that it is a kapara, it is an atonement. That kol mishkavo hafachta becholyo, his entire mishkav is for a reason. And whatever the reason may be, hafachta becholyo, it was turned over. Or he went through it through his illness. In other words, the illness atoned for it. I think I may have told you the story before, but I'm going to repeat it because it ties in very, very much with this, these two pesukim. First one, Hashem yishmeru v'chayeu, this verse with the next verse, Hashem yisadenu. These two pesukim have to do with helping or protecting him or saving his life. My uncle, many, many years ago, had a heart attack, and it turned out to be that his arteries were clogged. So they had to do bypass surgery. And as a result of the lengthy bypass surgery in those days, it was complicated. It was not easy. And eventually when they finished reconnecting the heart would not start working. So it was a very, very, critical stage that he was in. The heart, was now working on its own. So they asked the big rabbi for a blessing, and that big rabbi said it's going to be a little bit difficult, but he's going to get out of it. He's going to get through it. Everything will be okay. And eventually he came out of it, Baruch Hashem, and he lived for an additional 15 years. After he came out of it, he shared a vision that he had. In other words, apparently he had something like a near-death experience, where he saw himself go to Bet Din Shel Mala. He saw himself go to heaven. And he was being judged. And this individual, my uncle, was a very good man. He was a righteous man. He was a teacher, a principal for many years. Very generous man. He helped a lot of people. And as he's going up to be judged, he hears some angels saying, "Let him go. His time has come." And, and that should be it. All of a sudden, he hears another angel from the other side coming and saying, no, he deserves to live. Because many years ago, when he was a young man in yeshiva in New York, he helped a family from South America. Family from South America arrived in America. They had no place to live. The father did not have a job. He found the father a job. He found the family a place to live. And he helped them out in every way possible so that they should settle in this new country. And he's hearing this. My uncle's hearing this angel talk about this incident that he had totally probably forgot about, that happened years before. And as soon as the angel said this, he sees his eyes waking up. He sees his eyes opening up. The heart started working, of course. And Baruch Hashem began the stage of recovery. A lot of people forgot about this dream, or this vision that he had, I should say. He retold us afterwards, and I remembered it, even though I was very young back then. I remembered it very, very clearly. It left a very, very big impression on me. And I know that this is true because this happens. People have had near-death experiences. People have gone through a similar situation. But the point that I want to bring out here is, look what stood in his merit. Look what spoke up for him. The merit of the tzedakah, the merit of helping another individual settle in this country, finding him a job. That is what the meaning of the pasuk is. Hashem yishmereu v'yichayeu. Hashem protected him and kept him alive. Or Hashem yisadenu al eretz devai. Hashem supported him when he was al eretz devai. He was critically ill. The heart was not pumping on its own. So this is what got him going. This is what restored his heart. This is what saved his life. The next pasuk. Ani amarti Adonai choneni refa'a nafshi ki chatati lach. I said, Hashem, be gracious to me. Choneni. Be gracious to me. Refa'a nafshi. Heal my soul since I have sinned. David HaMelech is now asking that if there's anything on his soul, any blemish as a result of the sins, that Hashem should heal him. Hashem should atone for it. Many times when, Chas v'shalom, God forbid, a person is about to die, they say that it would be wise for him to say, She'atiyeh mitati kapara. In other words, if he's about to be put to death or something, we're not just talking about a regular situation where people are dying, but a person is being put to death. He would confess and he would say, maybe this death be a kapara, an atonement. The same thing here. David HaMelech is saying, if I did anything wrong, may it be that what I did wrong, may it be that the illness that I'm going through right now should be an atonement for everything I did. Besides that, he's asking that his nefesh, his soul, should be completely cleansed, because once the nefesh is cleansed, hopefully the body will also be cleansed, because there's a connection between the two, the body and the soul. So he's saying, I'm not only asking for my physical body, I'm asking that the soul be clean, because the soul is not clean if there are sins. So remove any stains that may be there, and if the sickness continues, then let that sickness be an atonement, be a kapara, or a cleansing for all those sins. Pasuk Vav. Oivai yomru ra'li matai yamut v'avad shemo. This is very, very sad, but unfortunately it happened not only to David but to others as well. When he was sick, and he was sick for 13 years. Very, very sick. Look what happened back then. Oivai yomru ra'li. My enemies said that evil awaits me. Ra'li. Oivai yomru ra'li. It's bad. Matai yamut v'avad shemo. When will he die already? When will his name perish? When will his name disappear? Now pay attention to the word he uses here, oivai, because soon he's going to use another word that sounds similar, called sonai. And we have to know what the difference is. Oivai versus sonai. They're both enemies, different kinds of enemies. Oivai usually is worse. So here he has enemies who are wishing for him to die, because they want to take over, they don't want to have him around, whatever. So look what he's going through to make things worse. And we know this from the past, that he suffered, that he had his enemies. During all this time, he has all these individuals, instead of wishing him good, wishing him bad. In the end, of course, Hashem healed him. In the end, Hashem sent him a full recovery, even though eventually he passed away at the age of 70, he was sick for a while, and then he recovered. So he says like this, Im ba lir'ot shav yidaber libo, yikbatz aven lo yetze lachutz yidaber. If one comes to visit him, and he speaks to him, and he does say, may you feel better, may you recover, all of that is being said insincerely. Shav yidaber libo, it's being said in an insincere way. Yikbatz aven lo, he's already getting ready. He's accumulating or planning what to say as soon as he leaves the room. Once he's out of the room of the sick man's room, then he will talk all that he wanted to say. So in the room, he's being very insincere. You know, we said earlier that it's very important that one know what to say. Imagine somebody coming to see a patient who's dying of cancer. Young man. And they ask him, what do you have? And he tells them the type of cancer that he has. And he says, oh, really? I know somebody just like you who died when he was 25. Terrible. People don't know what to say. They sometimes visit someone or they come to offer the condolences to somebody who died and they don't know what to say. Oh, what did he die of? You know, what happened? These are not the kinds of things that you want to ask. It's better to keep quiet than to say the wrong thing. That's what the rabbis tell us. Don't say anything. Let him talk, let him say something, and then you respond. You have to know what to say. And it's very difficult, depending on the situation. I mean, obviously, if somebody died at the age of 99 and had a very good life, then it could be that the pain is not as great. But still, you want to be tactful. You don't want to say the wrong thing. Here he's talking, however, about enemies of his. It appears that they're saying something nice, but they're being insincere. Shav yidaber libo. He speaks to me insincerely. Ikbots aven lo. Ikbots aven lo means that he begins to gather, to plan on what to say that is bad in his heart all the time. So as soon as yetzel lachutz yidaber, as soon as he comes out of the room, he will talk. Pasuk Chet is a continuation. Yachad alai itlachashu kol soneai. Together they whisper against me all my enemies. Alai yachshevu ra'ali. And they think all kinds of ways to harm me. Here you see, it says the word soneai. And before it says oivai. The oivai is wishing me bad. The sonai, which are enemies, are also whispering and thinking how to get rid of me or how to harm me. Why does he first say oivai and then he says sonai? I didn't see anybody talk about this, but to me it's obvious. If you look at the pasuk, oivai is very, very clearly saying yomru ra'ali. They're very open about it. Then there's another group who's not open about it. Yitlachashu. Remember the ones that are being insincere? Oh, may you feel good. We wish you our best. But these guys are also yitlachashu. They're whispering all kinds of things that are not right about me. These are sonai. You know, like they say in English, with such enemies, with such friends, who needs enemies? That's the idea here. In other words, these are not really friends. These are sonai. So sonai is not openly, overtly showing his enmity, showing his hatred. And David HaMelech says elsewhere, Hashem, please help me with my friends. I'll deal with my enemies. Help me with those who claim to be my friends, because I don't know if they're true friends or not. So Hashem, help me with my friends. And I'll take care of my enemies, because I know who the enemies are for sure. So perhaps that's the difference between the usage of oivai and sonai. Oivai meaning they're open about it, and sonai are not so open about it. Either way, there was several individuals who did not wish him well. Pasuk Tet. Devar b'liyal yatzuk bo. Let his wickedness, liyal is wickedness or evil, yatzuk bo, pour it into him. Vasher shachav lo yasif lakum. Now that he lays down, let him no longer rise. The simple interpretation of this pasuk is that that's what they are saying. They're looking at David and saying, it must be coming to him. He must have done something wrong. Therefore, the devar b'liyal yatzuk bo. Let it go after him. And that's the fact that he's laying down, he will not get up again. Some want to say that David HaMelech was wishing it on them, that all this wickedness should come back to haunt them. But the simple interpretation is that that's what they're saying on him. Now comes the more painful one. גם איש שלומי אשר בטחתי בו, אוכל לחמי, הגדיל עלי עקב. Even my ish shlomi, my ally, my good friend, the one who was in peace with me, in whom I trusted, ochel lachmi, he even ate my bread. In other words, I invited him over. Even he, igdil alay akev. It's an expression. Igdil alay akev means he raised his heel over me. In other words, even he wants to step over me. Even he is abandoning me. Even he is going after me. You know what? This happens in life. Unfortunately, even people who you trusted, it's called stabbing you in the back, something like that. Backstabbing, yeah. Unfortunately, this happens. What can we do? And that is very, very painful because these are people you trusted. How could it be? Yeah. It could be because many people are fake. Or they're tempted because of the circumstances, or they're bribed, or whatever, something that corrupts them. So even though they were friendly to you, they were not 100% your friend. And trials in life bring out the friends, the true friends. And those that do not come to your help at the time when you really need it, they're not real. They're not there for you when you really need them. So this one is the most painful one. David HaMelech, what do you think would wants right now for them? You would think that he would curse them? No, he says, Hashem, please be gracious to me and raise me up. In other words, allow me to recover, and I will repay them. Now, somebody who does not read the commentaries here might think that when he says repay them, I get back at them. David HaMelech is not that type of a person that takes revenge. Ashalem alahem, I will repay them, is like what he said earlier on. I will be good to them. I will not stoop to their level and be like them. I will repay them, not in kind, not in their currency. I will repay them means I will be good to them. I will be meshalem tova tahat ra'ah. I will pay them something good for their ra'ah and show them that I'm very different from them. So give me a chance to recover. And Hashem did give him a chance to recover after the 13 years of illness. And he was a very different person than they were. We're always tested. You know, it's a big test. If somebody was very nasty with you, if somebody was really bad to you, it's a big test. What are you going to do to him? I mean, it doesn't mean that you have to help him. It doesn't say anywhere that you have to help him like you did in the past. He doesn't deserve your help. But obviously you have to be careful not to take revenge. It's very tempting to take revenge. It's very tempting to be nasty to him too. But the Torah says, Lo tikom v'lo titor. Don't take revenge and don't bear a grudge. Forgive and forget. Doesn't mean you have to do business with him. You know, what did they say in English? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. You know, obviously you don't want to be taken for a ride, as they say. But David HaMelech says, no, I will show them how to behave. I will show them the right way to deal with people, to be sensitive to others. Next pasuk. וזאת ידעתי כי חפצת בי כי לא יריע אויבי עליי. With this I shall know that you desire me, כי חפצת בי, that you really want me, you like me, כי לא יריע אויבי עליי, so that my enemy will not shout with happiness, gleefully over me. In other words, I don't want them to see, chas v'shalom, that I really am not recovering, and that they should be so happy and see that they were right. And he says this several times over and over again. All he asks is not so much for himself. He doesn't want Hashem's name to be desecrated. He doesn't want them to think that they are right, that he was wrong. And therefore, I will know that you desire me. I will know that you have forgiven me. If you don't let them rejoice in thinking that they were right all along, that they are the ones who are victorious, and I have suffered all of this because it's coming to me. So let this be a sign, if I recover, that you really like me. Are you allowed to do this? And can somebody say, Hashem, if you really like me, make me recover from this illness. We can't test Hashem. Hashem says, don't test me, except in one place, if you give charity. If you give charity, Hashem says, Behanuni na bezot. If you give 10%, Hashem says, I allow you and I want you to test me. You will see that I will bless you. Otherwise, you're not allowed to test Hashem, because we don't know Hashem's cheshbonot. We don't know why Hashem does certain things. Well, if you don't cure me, that means this. If you cure me, it means this. You can't do that. There are times that you can do certain things and take them as a sign, but not as a test. And this is somewhat of a test. Mezot yadati. But David HaMelech can say so. And you will see why in the next pasuk. David HaMelech understood why he was going through what he was going through. When a person is sensitive enough that he can read his situation, his personal situation, as the rabbis tell us, yefashpesh b'ma'asav, he can examine himself and know exactly why certain things are happening to him. He can basically know when it's over. He can basically know if he has done proper teshuvah, if he has atoned for it or not. But most people are not on that level, that they can be in tune to what's going on, completely in tune to what's going on in their life, and they can't just say, well, if this cures me, then this means that my sins have been atoned for. If not, not. Maybe there's some other cheshbon. Maybe this has something to do with a previous lifetime. Maybe this is something that occurred during his earlier years that he has totally forgotten about. We are supposed to think that everything is for the good. But David HaMelech says, Bezot yadati ki chafetz tabi, because I don't want them to be the ones who will rejoice over my downfall, over my sickness, over my suffering. So if you don't let them, to me that will be an indicator, enough of an indicator, that you want me, that you desire me, that I'm worth it. And why? Why is it so? David HaMelech tells us here a very important secret of his, and something that is very, very valuable. And that is called tmimut. The Torah says, be tamim, be sincere with Hashem. Don't try to second guess him. Don't question him. Don't complain. Be tamim. Tamim tiyem Hashem Elokim means that your emunah, your faith, should be intact. Intact means unbreakable, unshakable, even through pain and suffering. Tamim tiyem Hashem Elokecha means therefore also not to try to figure out what the future says, what the future holds, by going to people who use tarot cards and do all kinds of things to figure out what the future will be. Have emunah in him that whatever is meant to be, that is what will happen. The way Hashem wants it to be, that's the way it will be. And don't try to figure it out. There are times we need to ask, of course, we need to consult with great rabbis, and even then we're told not to consult with the dead, not to consult with the wrong sources, with the impure sources. Because there are ways to figure out certain things, but they are from the impure camp. So if one does that, he's showing that he's not sincere. His faith is not complete in Hashem. This takes him away from Hashem. So tamim tiyem Hashem Elokecha, your emunah has to be tmimah. Your emunah has to be pure and complete, which means don't try to doubt Hashem. Don't try to figure things out that are beyond you. Just accept it. David HaMelech says, and that was one of my merits that I had. V'ani betumi tamachta bi, and as a result of my integrity or sincerity, however you want to translate it, you supported me or you upheld me, that I should not fall further. And what happened after that? V'tatziveni lefanecha leolam, and you've forever set me before you, next to you. Leolam, forever. In other words, he's talking about when he already recovered. He's talking about already after the fact. In that Baruch Hashem, he's next to Hashem. Hashem demonstrated to him that I'm with you. I did not let go of you. You see, I took you out of this illness that was with you for such a long time, and I've proven it to you. So David HaMelech, in many instances, shares that with us. You see, look at me. Look at me as an example of what I went through. It paid to trust in Hashem. Hashem took me out of this difficult situation that I was in. And this should serve as proof for all of you. that Hashem is involved in our life, He looks after us, and even if a person is al eres devai, even if he's on his deathbed, he's about to die, people have given up hope on him. Don't give up hope, lo lityaesh. Hashem supported me and upheld me and took me out of this situation. The last pasuk of the perek is not only the last verse of the perek, it's also the last verse of Sefer Rishon. Tehilim is divided into sefarim, into various sections or books. So since this is the end of a book, and I guess a book which consists of certain messages that he focuses on, he ends it in a very special way. Baruch Adonai Elohei Yisrael me'aolam ve'ad ha'olam, amen ve'amen. And you will see this verse, similar verses, towards the end of the other sefarim as well. Baruch Hashem, that was blessed is Hashem, the God of Israel, me'aolam ve'ad ha'olam, from this world to the other world. Which world are we talking about? From this world to the next world. In other words, that He's blessed here and He's blessed above in the two worlds. Amen ve'amen. What's twice amen? Well, twice amen because of this world and of the world to come. In other words, the word amen is also from the word emunah. Is that I confirm or that I affirm that this is true. It's a very powerful word, the word amen. Rabbis tell us that the one who says amen is greater than the one who makes the blessing because he's giving the confirmation. That's why you have to be careful always to answer amen to the berachot that require an amen. In other words, when you are able to answer and not miss out. The rabbis tell us that whoever is careful in answering amen in this world, zocheh ve'omer amen le'olam haba. He will also say it in the world to come. So that's why there's a mention here of this world and the world to come. That there's some continuity between the two worlds. We know that the soul continues to exist in the afterlife. But here is telling us something else. That there's a continuity from what we've done here in the world in the afterlife. Meaning, whoever praises Hashem, as the rabbis tell us, in this world will continue to praise Hashem in the afterlife. Apparently, the praising of Hashem, the making the blessings, the answering amen is significant. People underestimate the koach, the power that it has. Amen, amen yehishme rabbah, when we say the Kaddish in the prayer, is extremely powerful, so much so that it can cancel terrible decrees. And even if a person does not have too many deeds on his name, it can really do a lot for him. So David HaMelech chooses to end this perek with words of praise and thanks to Hashem. Because this is already after the fact of what he's gone through in thanking Hashem for all that has happened, as he had requested it in his prayers. The segula of this perek and the segula of the next two chapters is a very, very interesting segula. Segula meaning that this has a special power. This chapter, in the next chapter 42 and chapter 43, they all have a similar segula. What is it? If you had a job and somebody wants to replace you, in other words, fire you and put somebody else in your place, say this. These three perakim, either one of them, if you say it 3 times, the segula says that you will see wonders, you will see miracles. In other words, if you're in danger of losing your job because somebody else wants to replace you, that kind of a situation, this perek, this particular child and the next ones, have this koach, b'ezrat Hashem, of, I guess, overturning any decree or making sure that you have enough merits on your record to keep your job. So anyway, I don't know how many people are in this kind of a situation, but it's good to know that there is a perek for that too. Why would this perek be a segula for that? Well, there's a lot of mention here of Hashem protecting us and Hashem saving us from all kinds of troubles. It doesn't just have to be illness. There are all kinds of situations in life that people are in some sort of predicament that they find it very difficult to deal with. And so this perek, apparently in the next two, has a special koach, a special power to reach out to Hashem and to seek His protection. B'ezrat Hashem.